What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 4 of the Shea podcast. This week, very special guest, Frank the Tank from Barstool Sports. Starting off with our first topic tonight before we get into our Frank the Tank interview. This week, both Senga and Peterson pitched in their second outing. Both looked very good on the mound. They both went back-to-back in the same game. Senga and Peterson both looked effective in their couple innings that they were able to pitch. How do you think they looked in their second outing?
I kind of expected it from Peterson, to be honest, with the way he finished off last season. Senga went 2 innings, 2 hits, 2 strikeouts. Peterson went 3 innings, 1 hit, 5 strikeouts. I was way more, not that I wasn't encouraged by Peterson. I was definitely way more encouraged by Senga because coming off the injuries last year and the last time we saw him in the playoffs, it it kind of sucked to see him after what we saw his rookie year. Like he was so good his rookie year, and I think people forget how good he actually is. And if they're gonna do what we expect them to do this year and be as good as we think they can be, they're gonna need Senga at the top of that rotation. Like there's no question about it. Senga's got to pitch, and he's got to be good all year.
Absolutely, and especially with both Minaya and Montas going down. Unfortunately, we have to. We're pretty thin at the starting pitching spot now, but we have to rely on these guys. We have to rely on Senga. We have to rely on Peterson. And talking about that depth tonight, while we're recording this episode, we see Brendan Sproat on the mound for his second start of spring. Not a bad outing. 2 innings, 4 hits, 1 run, 2 strikeouts. It looked like he was trying to establish his fastball, which he is his bread and butter. Coming into the middle of the spring here, do you think Brendan Sproat has an opportunity to win that 5th or 6th job out of camp? Or do you think they'll send him down to AAA to start the season, and then once we get back home for the homestand, they'll call him up? What do you think?
Unfortunately, I think he's going to start the year in the minors. I don't think they're going to let him make it out of camp, which I mean, I kind of hate, but I also get it at the same time. He wasn't he wasn't what everybody was hoping for when he went to AAA last year, but at the same time, we spoke about this on a previous episode and we talked about it all the time. He's 24, bro. Like let this kid go. He's going to be making the starts in the minor leagues anyway.
Right.
Just let the kid pitch. And this was like we got into this whole debate today again in the chat on Instagram. This was why Crochet, in my opinion, was so big to go get somebody like that and have them in the top of the rotation because it's either you're going with the young guys or you're even when Montas before Montas got hurt, you're like they're so into this pitching lab and we could fix this guy, but Crochet's 25, Sproat's 24. So the age difference, it's not like we were trading for a 33, 34-year-old guy. I still think we're going to need somebody at some point this season because I don't believe that this rotation. Listen, we way overachieved last year with the rotation, and look what happened in the playoffs when we met the Dodgers. Either they ran out of gas or they just proved that, like, in reality, they weren't good enough to beat a lineup like that.
I completely agree. And I love your point that you said about Brendan Sproat being 24 and Crochet being 25. The situation that the Mets are in now, I don't think the Mets thought they were going to be in this position. Obviously, nobody can predict an injury. But with that
Right.
being said, with us having those injuries, it kind of fast forwards his timeline a little bit. He needs to be on the field. He needs to be with the big league club because we need him there. If we didn't need him there, if we had 6 pitches ready to go on opening day, yes, absolutely, he'll start in AAA. But I think he is a more effective option at this point than any of the other guys who are there. I know they like this guy Blackburn. Obviously, McGill has been here for a very long time. We talked about it. But you know what? I'd rather see the upside of a guy like Sproat, our top prospect in the system, than a guy like either Griffin Canning or Blackburn or McGill. I'd rather give the young kid the ball out of camp.
Yeah, we see it all the time with guys like listen, Schoolball's still young. We saw it with listen, I'm not saying he's going to be him, but we saw it with Paul Skeens. We saw it going back to even Steven Strasburg.
Yeah.
At some point, you got to take the baby gloves off and let these kids just go. And I feel that way about our position player prospects too. You know,
Mhm.
they're treating them almost like with kid gloves. And we saw what Acuna could do when he came up. I just don't know where all these guys fit in at some point. Listen, injuries can happen, like you said, but if they don't happen, and let's just pray that they don't, what are we hoarding these prospects for? I know it's a great way to like build the organization and keep consistency, and I get that. I was all for the prospects, but at the same time, I'm never going to be someone, and I've never have been, so I don't want to change how I feel about it now. I'm not going to be like I'm not trading the prospect for the proven guy. I look at it like that's what the prospects are for. If they're not going to come up and they're not going to contribute and you're not going to give them that chance when it looks like they're ready, then go trade for the guys that proved they could already do it at the major league level. We're not the Marlins, we're not the White Sox. If you're going to operate like the big market team, and Cohen, he promised a lot of things and he's delivered. Absolutely, he's delivered, especially this offseason. But don't hold on to the prospects when number one, like we said, there's no position for them, and number two, you have guys out there that you could go get that can help you win right now and in the future. I consider Crochet, like if you look at Sproat, I consider somebody like Garrett Crochet at this point a prospect because he's only got a year on Sproat. If we could call Sproat a prospect, I'm going to call Crochet that.
I mean, Crochet has the innings pitch in the major leagues. You know,
Absolutely.
he definitely has proven himself. But in terms of age, yeah, I agree with you absolutely.
Yeah, that's all I'm going by age.
Right, and I think that's. But unfortunately, this is David Stern's track record. Since he was with the Brewers, and like we said, we're not a small market team. We're not the Marlins. We're not the Brewers. We're not the White Sox. But at the same time, his philosophy and his organizational beliefs is let's build that farm system. So if we do have to replace an aging player, instead of hitting the free agent market, we'll have the guys in the minor league system to do it. Now, with that being said, when you have a guy like a Crochet, or like we've been talking about Luis Robert for a long time, or a guy which who knows what's going to happen at the deadline, but a guy like Vladimir Guerrero Jr., we now have the farm system to go ahead and be players in that conversation. Where in the past we haven't been those guys. We haven't had the farm system to keep up with some of these franchises that know how to sustain the farm system. And I I commend Stearns for that. It's definitely nice to have a farm system. We haven't had one in a very long time, but at the same time, to your point, when it's time to pull the trigger, you gotta make the trade for these big names, especially when we're probably a couple steps away from being in the World Series. And when you go sign Soto, you put yourself in that position to be a step or two away from being in the World Series. So I agree with you 100%. I think when you have the prospects and you have the farm system and there's a big name available, go get him. Go get him.
Yeah, you have to because, like you said, they put themselves in the position to win a World Series.
Also, this week, Vin, we also saw the first round of cuts coming from the major league team. They cut their roster down this week, sending down the majority of their big name prospects. Most of them got sent down to minor league camp, which is good because we want them to get the at bats that they need this spring heading into their season. I wanted to talk a little bit about what you think we can see out of those last one or two roster spots heading into opening day. We see a guy like Acuna, we see a guy like Beatty, but on the other hand, we might see somebody that we don't think that we don't expect to make that last roster spot. Who do you think will be on the roster to make that last one or two roster spots on opening day?
Well, I'll say this because you mentioned it, and actually, as you say that, Acuna just made the last out in the eighth inning. I'm really hoping he makes the team, but I will say this: some these kids at some point, somebody, one or two or whoever, better uh, be up because this was the reason that we were sold that Iglesias is now in San Diego.
Right.
And somebody like Iglesias, who was the spark plug for last year's team and basically helped them turn the corner and end up making their season what it was, is now not here anymore because we were told that they don't want to block the kids. I'm all for that, but we got to see it. These
Right.
kids are going to have to come up. I actually think this spring, I think Beatty's going to make the team.
I know we want to see Acuna.
The thing with Acuna is we don't really have a true backup shortstop on this team right now. We didn't have one even when Madrigal was here.
Right.
So unless they're confident, if let's all pray it doesn't, we don't have to see it, but if Lindor's to miss a few games or whatever, they have to be really comfortable with Beatty playing shortstop. And I don't know if
Well,
he can.
I was listening to the guys on SNY, and they said even if Beatty does make the team, because Beatty obviously has the game experience over Acuna, he has a lot more at bats, has more games started. I would only see Beatty being at short in either a late inning blowout or both ways. Either we're winning really big or we're losing really big. That would be the only time I see him actually getting reps at short. You know, knock on wood, there are no injuries, and Lindor's out there every day. If God forbid something happened to Lindor, Acuna will be up. Acuna will be the guy at shortstop. Okay, so as I was saying, Vin, so we were talking about Beatty or Acuna making that last roster spot. I think Beatty does get the last roster spot on opening day. We all know he can hit in AAA. The Mets know he can hit in AAA, but I think this is going to be his last opportunity to prove that he can hit major league pitching. It's going to be interesting to see how much playing time he gets going back and forth with Jeff McNeil. We all know how we feel about Jeff McNeil. I think I can say for the both of us, I don't think we'll ever see the Jeff McNeil of old. I don't think we'll ever see the batting champion again. But can he be a productive player on the team? Absolutely. You know, I think he can be productive. We saw that in the second half of the season last year. But I'm just ready to give. I'm ready to give those keys to Acuna, or a Mauricio. You know, Mauricio we know is going to start in AAA to get those at bats coming off the injury. But the second base position is the only position that really is a question mark on this team coming out of opening day. So I would love to see one of the young kids get that spot eventually. But I think on opening day, Jeff McNeil will be there.
Well, I look at Beatty like this. Well, actually, Beatty's up right now. I look at Beatty and McNeil like this, where it's not like Beatty is going to be a defensive replacement for Jeff McNeil at second base late in games,
Mm-hmm.
and they're both lefties, so it's not like you're going to keep Beatty on the team to be, a pinch hitter in that situation or anything like that, because you'll be pinch hitting a lefty for a lefty. So
Right.
I agree with you, and McNeil to me has to go. I just don't think. Listen, going back to the whole thing with Lindor, the whole fight that they had and everything, I think his time is come and gone. All he cares about now is golf.
I know.
So go join the PGA Tour.
His top Series 1 card is him swinging a golf club.
Is it really?
Yeah. It's
Yeah, I
crazy.
just think, and we said it last year when Iglesias started playing, it was sporadic in the beginning, but there was a few times when Lindor would turn a double play with Iglesias, and his reaction
Yeah.
was so much different than ever turning a double play with Jeff McNeil,
Yeah,
and it was visible.
the
If I
culture
could see it sitting on my couch,
the culture and the
it's
vibes of the
apparent.
locker room definitely changed once Iglesias got the second base job. That's without a doubt.
Yeah, and sorry, and the thing with Acuna is if you have Pete, Lindor, Vientos, Soto. Hopefully, I know Nimmo just had an MRI on his knee, but if Nimmo gets back to what he could do, and Alvarez takes another step, you don't need Acuna to bat second or third in this lineup.
No,
I look at Acuna where he can't hurt you.
no,
This is the perfect opportunity to let somebody like Acuna just play.
right.
Because if everybody else in this lineup does what they're supposed to do, let the kid learn. Let him learn from Soto. Let him learn from Lindor.
I agree.
McNeil's, in my opinion, McNeil is not a make or break player on this season.
No, definitely not. And I think the Mets know that. I think this is Jeff McNeil's last opportunity. If he comes out of the gate and he's not hitting, and he still has that uppercut swing, and he's not getting on base the way he used to, I think the opportunity will come for one of the young kids sooner than we think.
I hope so. Somebody just said in the chat what we've said in the past. They said crazy to say, but McNeil benefited more with the shift, and that's so true. Because when he was winning his batting titles and they were shifting on him, we
Yeah,
were seeing all these slap hits to left field. And
we
now
don't
that
see
you
that
can't
at all
shift
anymore.
anymore, all those slap hits are now ground balls or weak outs.
Yeah,
And I would have absolutely no love. I don't even care what we get back for him. I
me
just
either.
want him off the team.
I agree. No, I think he's clogging up a hole for one of the young kids to come up and play every day. And
And
I
the
know
good thing is, you would think with the contract, it's a very reasonable contract. He
absolutely,
shouldn't be that hard to move.
especially in the package deal, if for a pitcher or a hitter, whatever we need at the deadline. No, I agree. So, guys, like
Okay.
we said in our intro, we have our very first guest this evening, the one and only Frank the Tank from Barstool Sports. We are very happy to have him on. Check out the video, and it will start now.
What's up, Frank?
Hey,
Hey,
Frank.
how's it going? How's it going?
How you doing?
Oh, all right.
I just want to say first off, we really appreciate you hopping on for a few minutes with us.
Well, yeah, I only have a few minutes, but yeah, good day to do it.
I know I have the Met game on right now. Some of the regulars played tonight. Diaz looked like a little bit of a disaster, but
For a spring outing, I wouldn't worry about it.
yeah, you're right. You're right. So yeah, like I said, we won't try to bother you too long. Just ask you a few questions, about the team this year and everything. How excited are you to see Soto in the middle of this lineup?
I think that's terrific.
Did you think Pete was going to come back?
I thought there was a better chance of him coming back than not coming back, and the Mets played it perfectly.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like they just let basically him come back to them when the market didn't develop.
Yeah, there was no market for him. They played it perfectly. They didn't bid against themselves.
Right.
I agree. So, Frank, Vinny, and I said earlier, thank you so much for hopping on tonight. We really appreciate it. One question that we wanted to ask you: we recently posted a great video of Shea Stadium on our page recently, and we wanted to get your opinion. If you had to choose one ballpark that you would rather watch a Met game in, would you rather go to Shea Stadium or Citi Field?
Oh, Citi Field.
Citi Field.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I went to Shea Stadium enough.
Yeah.
It's long. It was long outdated by the time the new 2008 came by. The concourses were cold. I mean, when it was cold out there, the wind whipped through there and created like an air conditioner effect in like the back rows of the upper deck. If you're in the back rows of the upper deck, or the loge or the mezzanine, you really didn't get a great view of the field.
Yeah.
And if you're in the upper deck, you had to climb halfway to the International Space Station.
Those long escalators, right?
Yeah, it was time. Shea Stadium had moved past its prime.
One thing I did think, Frank, if Cohen owned the team at that time, I thought he might have wanted to renovate Shea Stadium similar to what they did to like Madison Square Garden.
No.
You don't think they could have?
No.
All right.
Yeah, you could have did that with Yankee Stadium, not Shea. Shea Stadium was built in the 1960s at a time when they were coming up with all this complete different multi-use stadiums.
Right.
It was a cookie cutter without the back half of the cookie. There was no bleacher seats. There was no outfield seats.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
And you would have done a complete redesign, which you couldn't do, and it was not worth it. It was not worth it, and it was a dinosaur left in the past.
Yeah,
Respect that.
Yeah, I could see that. That's a good point. With all the talks this year, do you think like it's necessary for them to give Lindor, the captain, the title, or is it kind of like he's the captain and it's basically like an unsaid thing?
I don't understand why they don't give him the captaincy. It's unsaid. and make it said.
Yeah.
Well said. Well said.
I was talking to somebody about it today, and I kind of also feel like now with Soto here, just to basically tell Lindor, this is still your team. Give him the captain patch.
Yeah.
Everybody knows he's basically the captain.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think they definitely should do that.
So Vinny and I we always have this debate. We go back and forth time to time. The Mets have been lucky over the last couple of years to have two very good shortstops in our franchise history, both Francisco Lindor and Jose Reyes. If you had to choose one to start your franchise with in their prime, who would you like to see starting at shortstop, Jose Reyes or Francisco Lindor?
Lindor.
Lindor. Any reason?
Yeah,
Any specific reason why?
More clutch hitter, better leader, better fielder.
Love it. That's
So
awesome.
You put Reyes at second. Let Lindor play short. I think that'd be pretty. Listen, moving Reyes to second for Lindor is much better than moving him to second for Kazmat.
Oh, that move never made any sense.
But Vin, like we said, we don't want to keep Frank on too long. We know he has a very busy schedule. Did you want to wrap it up with one more question?
Yep.
Just so we
One more question's fine.
So there was one guy, and I'm only going to bring this up because we got a lot of guys that we talk to on the daily basis right now. There was one guy I really wanted to trade for this offseason, and I want to get your take on it since they weren't going after Burns or nobody like that. I was dying for them to trade for Garrett Crochet. What do you think about Crochet? You think they should have done it, or you're okay with them just passing the torch on him?
I'm pretty much okay with what they did. I would like another pitcher, and I think I wouldn't be surprised to see them land a pitcher at some point this season.
I'm really hoping Screwball, but I don't know what that'll take.
They're not getting Screwball.
I just don't know who's going to be out there, but I guess
I'll tell you who's going to be out there.
Go ahead.
Sandy Alcantara.
I would love that.
That'd be great.
I would love that. Would you worry though, Frank, that like trading in the division, the Marlins are going to basically raise that tax?
They don't. The Marlins don't care.
Yeah,
we've seen that in the past.
Yeah, we've definitely seen that. Thank you again, man. I really appreciate you hopping on with us for a little while. And guys, there you have it. The legend himself, Frank the Tank.
See you guys next time.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Frank. Appreciate it. Let's go Mets, baby.
Let's go.
So this is a great segue to our next topic, right? So we've been talking about over the last couple of days as we get through spring training, what could be the opening day lineup. I know we went back and forth on this about a couple of different positions that could change, but to your point, if Nimmo is nursing a knee injury, would the DH opportunity benefit Nimmo, to start the season? So just a lineup that I wrote down, and you can agree or disagree. You can let me know. On the opening day roster, I would like to see Lindor first, leadoff, Soto, Pete, Nimmo, Vientos, Marte, Alvarez, McNeil, and Siri, 1 to 9. So that would be my.
You want me to be honest with you?
What happened?
You want me to be honest with you?
With Marte in left, and then Nimmo in the DH spot.
Marte in left, Nimmo DHing. Okay.
Right. And
all right, you want me to be honest with you?
Lineup stinks.
I hate it.
All right, so good. So what do you hate about it?
All right, so my opening day lineup would be Lindor.
Yeah.
Soto.
Yeah.
Vientos.
Okay.
Pete. I'm okay with hitting Nimmo fifth.
Okay.
And then I would do Marte.
Right.
I would have. This is where it gets kind of tough. I think I'd have Alvarez hitting seventh.
Yeah.
Siri. And if
Siri
they're going to
eighth?
start McNeil, I guess McNeil ninth.
You wouldn't put Siri ninth to have the speed back to back with Lindor?
This is where I feel like McNeil could really benefit. And if we're ever going to see a McNeil get back to his form, I think batting ninth would be best. Because if Siri gets on, he opens holes for McNeil.
True.
The first base has to hold him on. I think McNeil at his best with Siri running, McNeil could get back to that hit and run type player, the slap base hits, moving the runners over, stuff like that.
Hmm.
And then if Siri does get on and you have McNeil batting ninth, you're gonna have to pitch to McNeil because now you got
Right,
Lindor, Soto, and Vientos behind him.
right.
I'm not ready. I love Vientos. I love what he did last year, and I think he Mike said the only hole McNeil has is in his bat.
It's true. He's not
Um,
wrong.
I'm not ready to give Vientos a spot in the lineup where he has to provide protection for anyone after Pete because he's still young. I'd like to see him hitting with the ideal situation is Lindor and Soto get on, and now Pete is protecting Vientos with guys on base. Um, I just listen. I'll say it now, and I hope I'm wrong. I hope he proves me wrong. I don't have faith in Pete to be a three hitter. I just don't. I think Pete's best days are behind him. I think he'll hit, listen, he'll hit his 30, 35, 40 home runs, whatever it's going to be. And I know that's hard to find in today's game at first base, but I don't think Pete is going to be the Pete that we grew to love. He strikes out so much, and his bat last year, especially, I don't want to hear about the contract and all that, but his bat looks slow. And I listen, like I said, I hope he proves me wrong because if the Mets are going to have a big year, they're going to need Pete. But
But Pete was great
I
in the
fully
playoffs.
expect that in 2026, Alonso is not going to be a Met. I'm already prepared for it.
I agree with you. I think that this will be Pete's final season as a Met. I agree. But to say that he's going to decline that much to where he's not going to be a productive player, I disagree with that. I think we're definitely going to see Pete produce, especially having Soto in front of him now. I
I
mean,
think, listen, he'll put up his numbers, like I said.
he might put up.
Admittedly,
This might be a career high in RBI for him this year.
I hope so.
With Lindor, Soto, and then if we go with your lineup, Vientos sitting in front of him, he might have the most people on base that he's ever had before.
I think for Pete to have that type of year where he could possibly cash in, I mean, we saw what the market was on him this past offseason, and it seemed like there was none. I think for Pete to do himself a service, I think you have to put Lindor, Soto, and Vientos in front of him.
And I'm
I'm,
perfectly
I,
fine.
I look at it like with the new analytics thing, they say you want your best hitter hitting second. And I mean, there's no question. Soto's by far and away our best hitter.
Of course.
He'd be the best hitter in every lineup except maybe two or three. Outside of the Dodgers, we got to see what Acuna does. But outside of the Dodgers and Yankees, Soto would be the best hitter in any lineup in baseball.
Right.
And I think Vientos in the three hole, you could really unlock like another level of Vientos with Lindor and Soto in front of him and Pete behind him.
It's going to be interesting to see how Mendoza go ahead and writes his lineup on opening day. Because, like I said, I think that he's going to want to get those three guys as many at-bats as possible. And I think they can really jump on teams early in the first inning if you have Lindor, Soto, and Pete out the gate. So it's going to be interesting. Two good lineups. I mean, either way, no matter how you mix it, we had all the same guys. So it's not like you started somebody that I didn't start. It was all the same guys. But I definitely agree giving Nimmo that opportunity to DH. I would have no problem with that to open the season. So, Vin, the last topic I wanted to touch on tonight was we are reaching the end of the line point that we want to get to. On your Instagram, on the Shea Less Instagram over the last couple of weeks, we have been posting an all-time Mets bracket. With March Madness coming up over the next couple of weeks, we thought it would be a very cool idea to get the listeners and the followers involved. And we wanted to hear your thoughts and your opinions on who your all-time Met is. It was a very close bracket. The round of 64, and putting it in March Madness terms, was absolutely crazy. We had some crazy matchups to start off the bracket. Some people got eliminated that we didn't want to get eliminated, but hey, that's what March Madness is. So we did have our final vote. We saw who got down to the final two. And Vin, what were the results of that final vote? Who did the Mets fans vote as their favorite Met of all time?
This one actually shocked me a bit. Maybe because it's a younger generation now, more following the Mets, but David Wright kind of dominated the matchup against Mike Piazza.
You really did.
I was kind of shocked at that, and David Wright really breezed all the way through this bracket.
Yeah.
I'm gonna try to just go real quick. I'm gonna find David Wright's matchups
Okay.
and let you know what they were.
Do you have the percentages?
I do.
All right, good.
So the first matchup, he was matched up against Al Leiter, which we knew David Wright was going to win, but 97% to 3.
I mean, it's David. He's the captain.
Let's see. The second round matchup for David Wright was Dwight Gooden.
That was a close one. There he's right there.
History.
The Doc.
Right? Monster name in Mets history. If you had a guess, what do you think the percentages were on this one?
I'll go with an even number, 60-40.
David Wright beat Dwight Gooden in the round 2 matchup, 83 to 17%.
Wow, that's crazy.
That's monstrous.
That was the quarterfinals or the semifinals?
That was the what was it? So we had round 1. So you had to win you had to win 3 matchups to be the all-time Met.
Okay. So what was the last one?
So yeah, like I said, his first matchup was Al Leiter. His second matchup was Dwight Gooden.
Okay.
He faced Mike Piazza in the championship round.
And what was the final tally?
This is a little closer, but David Wright in the championship round beat Mike Piazza in the bracket 61% to 39%.
All right, so close to that 60-40, like I said, but
that one, that one's close to 60-40.
Well, you got to remember too, Vin. Like, we're our age is bordering on the line of like the next generation of like Instagram and TikTok and YouTube and all that. Everybody older than us isn't on Instagram, so the majority of our followers and listeners are David Wright fans. So obviously, we could see how that favored in the poll. My personal opinion, it's Mike Piazza. All right. Well, guys, thank you so much for tuning in to episode 4 of the Shea podcast. Thank you so much to Frank the Tank, absolute legend, Barstool legend, Met legend. We will see you guys next week. And like always, guys, please subscribe and comment on each of the videos. Make sure you hit that thumbs up button for your boys. I'm Big Lou. That is Vin.
Real quick. Don't end it. Real quick. I have to say it. I have to.
Again.
Shout out to the Woodbridge Brewing Company, guys. And if you're in here, drop a follow to our guy, NR Media. This month, the 28th, me, Lou, and some of the guys at Shea, the Mets' second game of the season. We're going to try to get a group to go out to the Woodbridge Brewing Company. They're great. You guys will love them. They've opened their doors. Great time, great food, great atmosphere. So definitely follow Woodbridge Brewing Company.
Thank you guys so much. We will see you next week from the Shea podcast. Good night, guys.